welcome to HITC Sport. Right, let's take a look at the last 15 Premier League seasons, because I don't have all day to do them all. See which club finished bottom of the league, and just sort of see where it went wrong for them. Just try and dissect exactly why they went down. So it's a bit like a post-mortem 15 years later. Why do I get the feeling I'm going to revisit this in 9 months and be forced to add because they signed Ravel Morrison? 0405 Southampton. Well, this was just embarrassing for all concerned. If you have a budding England international scoring 16 goals for you despite looking like a human lamppost, you should not be getting relegated. Or at the very least, have your defenders brought out back and shot in the face. The previous season, Southampton had finished 12th. This time they went through 3 managers, including plucking Harry Redknapp from across the south coast. Usually a survival expert, Redknapp did nothing except provide an expert guide in how to steer a football club into a goddamn tree. The signing of Crouch was good, the arrivals of an expired Olivier Bernard, the human curse that is Nigel Quashie, oh and of course the manager's son, were not. But the big mistake was selling James Beattie in January, considering his replacement scored 4 league goals. Sunderland 0506. You would think Sunderland would have learned from the last time when they set a record low of 19 points. Not only did they not learn and repeated the same mistakes, they set a new record low of 15 points. Which is a bit like failing your GCSEs the first time round, then the second time after a 0 goddamn revision, you can't even spell your own goddamn name on the page. Their transfer window was pathetic. John Stead, Justin Hoyt and Anthony Latalik, why didn't they just drink a gallon of bleach on the spot? And relying on Andy Gray as your source of goals, that is the former Sheffield United striker by the way, not the former Sky pundit banished to the Middle East for crimes against sexism. Good God, that club just filled their squad with a big bag of horse piss. No wonder they had to wait until May to win at home. By the end of the season, half the fans had stopped showing up. Can you blame them? Like if I was forced to watch Kevin Kyle every week for 9 months, by the end of it I'd start pulling out my goddamn teeth in despair. Anything to numb the pain. 0607 Watford. Well, this was a season where Watford had pretty much given up and surrendered by Christmas. Rooted to the foot of the table, they were kissing goodbye to Ashley Young, packaging him off to Aston Villa for 9 million quid. This was back when he was actually young, instead of this old man who lets pigeons take a dump on his face. Chucking your only player of any real quality out the window midway through a relegation battle is like puncturing a lifeboat halfway through a crisis. In fairness, they had won 1 game by mid-January and were even getting scored on by opposing goalkeepers. So yeah, maybe they were well within their rights to chuck back 3 pills of cyanide. They were also relying on the fitness of Marlon King, although let's be honest, that man was more of a threat to women in nightclubs than he was any Premier League defence. 0708 Derby County. Where did this Derby County team go wrong? Christ above, by purely existing probably. This was the most embarrassing disgrace of a Premier League side that I've ever seen and probably ever will see. The only way you can top this is if some manager unleashes a team of drunken hillbillies, complete with an odd set of goddamn limbs. How this team were even promoted? I have no idea, considering they were the biggest joke the Premier League has ever seen, which is quite a feat considering Titus Bramble is a pretty good punchline itself. 1 win all season, and that was against Newcastle, which should have seen Big Sam lose his job on the spot for that alone. Christ above, was like losing a game of charades to Stevie Wonder. It was almost getting uncomfortable to watch, seeing them battered every week. They went on to concede 89 goals and scored just 20. 0809 West Brom. And this was just West Brom being a yo-yo club. Persisting on Tony Mowbray throughout the entirety of this season was a bit of a risk. It did not pay off. I mean, it clearly wasn't working. Why not dump him at Christmas? I mean, it's like being 6 months into a relationship and then suddenly she packs on 50 pounds, starts cutting your hair in your sleep and killing all your pets. It would just make sense to give her the boot. But no, they kept Mowbray and went down. I mean, yeah, there was clearly some quality in this baggy side. Yes, they couldn't defend, but they could score goals. They netted as many as Wigan, who finished 11th, and only 5 less than Fulham, who finished 7th. They only finished bottom on goal difference and took the battle until the last day, unlike the likes of Derby, who were relegated in March. I don't know, considering Mowbray would end up ditching them for Celtic anyway, I just think bringing an experienced manager might have kept them up, especially considering Hull City just about survived, despite seeing their form sink like Rebel Wilson in a swimming pool. 0910 Portsmouth. Sad what happened to Portsmouth. 2 years earlier they were winning an FA Cup. I mean, they were even in an FA Cup final this season. They didn't win it and it was a wretched season in the league, probably due to the financial meltdown that was being inflicted upon the club at the time. For Christ's sake, they were docked 9 points for entering administration in March. Portsmouth weren't even allowed to qualify for the Europa League for reaching the FA Cup final, which they would usually be able to do purely because of their finance problems. Kevin Prince Boateng must have spent the season looking around the dressing room at the likes of Danny Webber and Michael Brown and wondering which one of his agents to sack first. 10-11 West Ham. It's very easy to see where West Ham went wrong. Giving Avram Grant a 4-year deal 3 weeks after he guided Portsmouth to the foot of the league. How does a relegated manager get a job so quickly? This is an ownership who were trying to sign the likes of Neymar at the time and had designs for the new London stadium. So why on earth were they employing a fella with all the personality of a tree stump as manager?
Avram Grant tells West Ham United fans not to panic.
This is the perfect time to panic!
I think the owners soon realised their mistake. After the final day of the season, they were so annoyed at relegation that they fired him in the changing room and and even tried to prevent him from getting on the team bus home. I mean, come on lads, what do you expect him to do, walk home? You know, after about 20 minutes that man would probably melt in the sun. A bit like a snowman made out of grease and failure. 11-12 Wolves. Wolves' biggest mistake during the 11-12 season, undoubtedly sacking Mick McCarthy. Doesn't anyone ever learn? It didn't work for Sunderland, and definitely hasn't for Ipswich, and yeah, since firing him in 2003, I realised that our national team has gone nearly 2 decades without a World Cup, although if FIFA hadn't deployed a team of blind officials in Paris, then who knows. But yeah, the Wolves board panicked after 5-1 home defeat to West Brom, back when Peter Odemwingie was scoring hat-tricks, as opposed to just sitting in his car outside a training ground. Actually, just thinking about that was so insanely creepy. If you turned up outside a girl's house in a car and waited until she let you in, you'd be doing well not to get a restraining order. But yeah, I mean, after this game, it saw the club slip into the relegation zone on goal difference in February. And so Wolves got rid of McCarthy and replaced him with Terry Connor, a lad who no doubt had it written into his contract that he was to be buried side by side in the same coffin as McCarthy. When Terry Connor is your last roll of a dice, you know you've essentially signed your death warrant. He had 13 games left, won none of them, got smashed 5-0 twice in his first 4 games. I mean, was that not enough of a clue that he clearly wasn't fit for the job? It's like going on a date with a girl and her getting sick on the table within 20 minutes. Any sane person will walk out the door and get back on Tinder to try again, but no, they kept Connor for the entire season, got relegated with 4 games to spare. I mean, sacking Mick McCarthy with Terry Connor, I mean, it's essentially like handing the keys of your convertible to a blind cat. 12-13 QPR. Where did QPR go wrong? Offering big wages to a bunch of big names who have all the hunger and drive of a Jeremy Kyle contestant. Yes, the likes of Julio Cesar, Park Ji-sung and Josie Basingua might have impressive CVs, but you have to ask yourself, why are they now choosing to link up with the likes of Junior Hoylett and Jay Bothroyd? Because it clearly wasn't their boyhood dream. Again, Harry Redknapp was drafted in as the survival expert, replacing Mark Hughes, and not even he could inject a bit of enthusiasm into the squad, who are clearly more interested in their paychecks than anything happening on the pitch. 4 wins. Considering what Tony Fernandes was paying these players, that is absolutely pathetic. 13-14 Cardiff. Cardiff's biggest mistake? Well, there was the transfer window, which probably should have had certain people jailed for crimes against the sport. Andres Cornelius for 8 million quid should have had someone's hand slammed in a blender. The arrival of Stephen Cocker, a man clearly born with 2 left feet, and the likes of Fabio, the human equivalent of a defensive sneeze. It was a bit like jamming a hole in a condom and then just complaining when you're having to change the nappies within 9 months. But no, biggest mistake was firing the quite steady Malky Mackay with Cardiff 16th at Christmas for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, a man with as much managerial experience in English football as my goddamn goldfish, which doesn't even exist. All he did was sign a bunch of Norwegian rejects, draft in a fat Cameron Jones, and clearly instructed the Cardiff defence to play with all the composure and concentration as this lad. Good Christ. 14-15 QPR. QPR again, right, where did they go wrong? Harry Redknapp's replacement by far. He bowed out in February, claiming that it was his dodgy knees that meant he could no longer stand on the touchline. Considering he's had about 4 different jobs since, and spent 6 weeks in a fucking jungle, I'm guessing it had more to do with not wanting to spend the rest of his life trying to keep Alan Taarabt out of the fucking canteen. Putting Stephen Cocker and an aging Rio Ferdinand together in defence is like pouring petrol in with your morning Weetabix. Hence the regular defeats, but according to Tony Fernandes, a week after Redknapp danced off into the sun,
Think I have got my dream manager, not what anyone thinks. Takes a while, still a bit to go, but I'm very happy. Press all wrong.
Dream manager, who was it? Michael Laudrup, Mark Warburton. I mean, if it was a wet dream, Jose Mourinho. Nah. Chris Ramsey. Tony Fernandes actually dreams about Chris Ramsey. I'm guessing that was the quickest QPR fans I've ever lost their goddamn erection. You basically excited them for nothing. It's like promising the kids that they're gonna have dream presents in their stockings, and then when it gets to Christmas Day, they find out it's nothing more than a collection of rocks and pig snot. Chris Ramsey, not to be confused with that spaghetti-armed hipster off Mock the Week, hadn't managed since a 3-year gig at Charleston Battery in 2004. He essentially spent the last decade collecting bibs and putting out training cones. 3 wins in their final 14 games, including a 5-1 last day defeat at Leicester. It was just miserable. 15-16 Aston Villa. For Aston Villa, this is just a consequence of years of neglect. Yeah, 5 years earlier they'd been fighting for Europe under Michael O'Neill. Then the money stopped, but they continued to sell their best players. But of course Villa went down. They had a squad littered with players who clearly left their backbone at home. The captain was playing with one knee, Julian Lescott was more concerned with tweeting out of his goddamn pocket, while the likes of Gabby Agbonlahor no doubt spent every other weekend stuffed in the kitchen at KFC. 16-17 Sunderland. I'm sorry, but if you teeter on the edge of the relegation zone year after year, one of these days your luck will run out. And that's exactly what happened. Replacing Sam Allardyce with David Moyes did not help. There was no heart in this Sunderland team, but of course not. Jack Rodwell and Darren Gibson, come on, I mean Jermaine Defoe was their only source of goals. It took them 11 games to win a match. Come on. 17-18 West Brom. Sacking Tony Pulis. I'm sorry, but if you're West Brom, you do not give it to that man halfway through a season. It's just idiocy. Yes, the lad might coach football as boring as sin, that honestly looks about as much fun as a stroke, but he keeps teams up. That is what you get from Tony Pulis. Getting upset at being relegated once you sacked him, it's been like being upset with the bathwater once it's escaped down the drain after you've taken out the plug. Yes, I understand, life is too short to persist with Pulis' mind-numbing brand of football forever. I'm guessing some Baggies fans were ready to scrub their eyes with barbed wire. But don't make the switch in November. They were 17th when Pulis was sacked. The appointment of Valimpardi saw 1 win in 22 games, so the man had no control. Christ above, on a bonding trip to Spain, 4 lads waddled off to steal a goddamn taxi. If they tried that under Pulis' watch, he'd probably have tried to nut them in the goddamn shower. 18-19 Huddersfield. I mean, you could say David Wagner leaving in January didn't help, but come on, Huddersfield were always going down. Second season syndrome, I mean, it can't be helped sometimes. They were running on fumes and adrenaline when they stayed for the first season. This was the season everyone finally cottoned on and realised that the Huddersfield squad was filled with complete and utter horse manure. Not only were they unable to defend for 20 minutes straight, their strikers probably couldn't find the goalposts on Google Maps. Christ above, their top scorer was Carlin Grant with 4 goddamn goals. He only played 13 games. Anyway, that's the end of it, lads. That was just my little post-mortem of each bottom club team. What do you think? What do you think was the reasons for them going down? Who's going to go down this year? Let me know in your comment section below. Twitter, Instagram is there if you want to follow me in that. Enjoy the video, give it a like, share and subscribe. And as always, we'll talk to you in a while.